Good afternoon. I'm going to unmute you for a minute, Aliya. Oh, it hasn't done it. Right, I'm going to give it a few minutes to let people come on if they're coming on. And then we will get started. Hello, Aliya. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm a bit nervous.
You can always take a drop of CBD oil. That's what I did.
That's true. That's true. I should have done that. I haven't got it. I've like sorted out my office area, but I haven't really got it. Your picture's so much clearer than mine. Your picture's cool.
It might be your have you tried cleaning your little aperture?
What, can you do something on it?
I don't know. It might just
I don't know. It's my laptop. It's probably my old laptop. Don't worry. What I was thinking was I'll just give it a couple of minutes and then we'll mute everyone. We'll get started. We'll introduce ourselves and all that kind of thing.
Okay. How are you keeping anyway?
Yeah, all very good. Thank you very much. Lovely weather here in Spain. I assume you've got the lovely weather.
It's bright, but it's cold.
Outside?
Yeah, so it's because I'm in the mountains. It gets really cold at night time, so it's like 6 or 7 degrees, and then it shoots up to like 25, 26 degrees during the daytime, and then goes back down again. So it's all about the layers.
It's lovely out in the sun today where I am.
How are your alpacas?
They're all good, thank you. They are enjoying the sun. All the animals like the sun when the sun comes out. Dogs and alpacas laying in the sun and stuff like that. We had that rain last week and they don't like that.
But we needed the rain. It's been quite dry for a while.
Yeah, we always need the rain. When you come and live in this part of the country.
Yeah, it's beautiful where you are.
Yeah, well, and where you are.
It's nice. I'm looking forward to having my space when it's like the house in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I totally understand.
No constant traffic, no hairdryer sounding scooters and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, well, we had like 20 motorbikes go past us today, so like that disturbed it a little bit, upset all the dogs and stuff.
That's unusual.
Yeah, well, I think it's weekend, isn't it? People are just trying to get out while they can.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, I think we will get started introducing ourselves. I'll mute you for a second and then you can unmute yourself when I sort of talk you in. And then if people join, I'll just keep adding them as we go. Right, welcome to our first ever CBD and yoga seminar. The idea behind this seminar is to give you a background about CBD itself, how good CBD can be for a variety of different things, but also how it can be used in conjunction with yoga. And actually, Aliya does use it in massage and therapies and stuff like that as well. So it's a really good opportunity to investigate and dive into what CBD can be used in conjunction with. Now, I've been sort of researching and talking about CBD for nearly 3 years now. So I tend to talk about the basics of CBD and give a broad overview of how CBD works and how it works in conjunction with the body and promotes sort of general well-being and stuff like that within the body. Aliya is going to talk more about focusing it on how she uses it and in yoga and stuff like that. Now, the idea behind this as a seminar is we would like to roll this out in the area we live. So we both live in southern Spain, different cities, but in southern Spain. And there is an abundance of yoga studios, yoga retreats and places like that all around southern Spain. I think they gravitate here because of the weather mainly, but there's lots of places like that around here. Aliya also has connections in Madrid. So in those two places, southern Spain and Madrid, we would really like to connect with yoga studios, yoga teachers, anywhere that would be interested in I am looking forward to the information. Don't worry about your camera at all, Mac. Whoever that Mac is, don't worry about the camera at all. It's not really a problem. You're just watching me and Aliya talking, really, so it's no problem about the camera at all. Don't worry. Yeah, so we would like to find places where we can do this seminar in person. So we can talk to a class full of yoga students, yoga teachers, or anything like that. If you've got a retreat, if you've got a class or somewhere where you hold a class, if you'd be interested in doing that, please do get in touch with one of us. I'm going to put some slides up at the end, at the very end, with both our contact details on, stuff like that, so that anyone that's watching can get in touch with us. Also, if you're not on the Zoom live today when we're doing it, which is Sunday, we will be posting this video around on YouTube and stuff like that. So those contact details are still valid. You can still get in touch with us. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about working with you in the future. Also, we posted it on LinkedIn and we had an abundance of responses to the event on LinkedIn. We were really excited about that. But lots of people were from outside of the yoga realm. So it was boxers, footballers, rugby players, athletes, personal trainers, and massage therapists and stuff like that as well. So if you're watching this and you think, actually, that CBD side of things could work really well with what I do, for example, if you're a fitness trainer, we would be happy to talk about setting up seminars for CBD and fitness training, CBD and sports therapy, CBD and rugby, or anything like that. So again, if you're watching this and you think it will work really well with what you do, please do get in touch with us. I'll let you have a quick rundown of how we're going to work this. I'm going to go through my story, how I got into CBD, my background, what I do now, which is a bit out there. Aliya's going to talk about her background, what she does now, and how she uses CBD and that now. Then I'm going to do what I call CBD 101, basics of CBD, very general, not hugely scientific, a little bit scientific, but not hugely, because that's a lot for a Sunday afternoon. And then Aliya's going to talk CBD and yoga, massage and mindfulness and all that sort of stuff. And then we'll sum up at the end. I'll just go over again, you know, the type of people we're looking to work with and that kind of thing, contact details and all that. Okay, so this is me. My name is Alan Parks. 12 years ago, I up sticks, moved from the city of Brighton in the UK and started an alpaca farm in the middle of nowhere in Spain. Literally almost out the blue, just like that, just how I said it. My partner Lorna was a dance teacher in the UK for 30 years, and she started suffering with an autoimmune disease, and basically said, I can't do my job anymore. What are we going to do? And we came up with this plan to go and start an alpaca farm in the middle of Andalusia. Absolutely crazy, but hugely life-changing, hugely sort of life learning, all that type of thing. We live off grid. We live in the middle of nowhere. There's no English speakers around us. We have solar panels for electric. We have water from a spring. And we've had to sort of find our way and learn a lot about ourselves in time. Obviously, I don't know where you guys are from that are watching, but in southern Spain, there's a huge problem with abandoned animals and stuff like that. We found a dog soon after we moved here 12 years ago. Carlos was his name, and Carlos was how I got into CBD. Carlos was a young hunting dog, probably 2 or 3 years old when we found him, petrified of any sort of sharp noises, loud noises, anything like that, petrified of men, used to go and cower in the corner when people would visit us. And after probably 10 years of good life with us and gradually coming out of himself and stuff like that, he started suffering with really bad arthritis, and he would drag his back legs along the ground, and we've got really rough dirt track outside our house. His feet got all cut up and he would bleed and stuff like that. So we went down the route of trying to buy him some rubber shoes and stuff like that, crazy things off Amazon. You see videos of dogs plodding about on these shoes on Facebook and stuff like that. He didn't really like them. And someone said to me, why don't you try CBD oil? I'd never heard of CBD oil at that point. I Googled it, I looked into it, realized it was a component of the cannabis plant and stuff like that. At the time, totally anti-cannabis, totally anti-drug, anti-cannabis. The only experience I'd had with cannabis was my brother smoking it quite a lot when he was a teenager, caused him some memory problems and stuff like that. Nothing extreme, no hard drugs or anything like that, just a bit of memory problems. And I was just totally anti. But we found this CBD oil online. We gave some to the dog, and within a month, honestly, the arthritis was hugely improved. He was walking properly. We could bin the shoes, and we estimate that it probably gave him an extra year of life. Now, for probably 12, 13-year-old dog with really bad arthritis, quality of life was a real big key. It's a big key thing for any animal owner. That was amazing to us. So we started looking into CBD more. As I said at the start, my partner had this autoimmune disease, and CBD, it turns out, is amazingly anti-inflammatory. So she started taking the CBD, and my sort of story just grew from there. Now, sorry if it feels like I'm going on a lot, but I have to sort of get my story in, because my story goes there with Carlos and then goes all the way back about 30 years to when I was 12 years old. My dad became very ill when I was 12 years old. He had a problem called esophageal varices, and it came from a problem with his liver. Now, until recently, I didn't know that when I was being born, when my mum was pregnant with me, my dad suffered from anxiety. Now, he went to the doctor, asked for something to help with the anxiety, got prescribed Prozac. So we would have been talking 1978. I don't know how freely they were given out things like Prozac, but he got prescribed Prozac, and he became addicted to Prozac. Now, my dad liked to drink. I wouldn't say he was an alcoholic, but he liked to drink. So years of being addicted to Prozac, and as well as a bit of enjoying a drink, caused him problems with his liver. He had to have 2 liver transplants, and in the end we lost him 16 years ago to cancer, because he caught cancer because he was on immunosuppressant drugs. So he got cancer and they couldn't do anything about it. So my story, and I've only learned my story since I started talking and educating people about CBD, is that essentially my dad could still be here with us now if he'd had a natural alternative to the anxiety medication that he was given before I was even born. Now, obviously I'm going to talk about CBD when I go through my presentation, but for me, that's a huge revelation that, you know, something that's natural, something that comes from a plant, can help people as an alternative to pain medication, over-the-counter medication, and opioids. So that essentially is my story. My passion, I suppose, for CBD and for hemp as well, which I'll talk about in a bit, comes essentially from that background and just wanting to help people, spread the word, help people get off painkillers, help people get off things like tramadol and things they've been on for a long time, and they just rely on them so much. So I'll let Aliya tell you where she's from, what she does, and all that kind of thing. And then I'll get started with my sort of side of things.
Thanks very much, Alan. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Aliya Ali. I was born in a country called Lesotho, which is inside South Africa. And then I moved to the UK with my family when I was 4 years old. And I lived in London up until May last year. In May last year, I moved to Madrid, and that's where Alan and I met. And then in March this year, I moved to Granada in Andalusia. So that's a little bit of logistics. And then in terms of my career was in high luxury sales. So I sold diamonds and houses and hot tubs and all things luxury up until a point around about 2013, 2014. I decided that I wanted to change, and I trained as a yoga teacher. I received a 200-hour yoga qualification, and since then I've been teaching yoga on and off to friends and family. And then when I moved to Spain, I put it into real practice and started teaching the public. So This year, I also trained as a Thai massage therapist, and just this month, I've enrolled to become a clinical hypnotherapist. So I've changed from high luxury to health and well-being. And I think it's really important to now, in these times, ever more than ever, is to focus on our health and well-being. So that's the past. And what am I doing now? Now I'm performing Thai massages at home for clients. I have my studio here. I also have permissions to travel because of my autonomous status, so I can visit people in their homes. And I also have a space inside Granada in a herbalaria called Alma y Tierra, which means earth and soul. So I teach yoga classes also in the same herbalaria as well as online. I hold weekly art classes teaching people how to appreciate the human body. We have a nude model every Thursday evening, and I run the classes underneath the umbrella of the Amazing Art Society. This year, last month, I held my first retreat where I brought CBD, yoga, and art together in a retreat called Transformation on Display, which was beautiful. We had 2 students, we had a small group, and we had a fantastic, really profound, transformational time. And then in my spare time, I do have some spare time. I'm a community manager for a international group called Girl Gone International. It's a Facebook group for women. I'm the community manager for Granada, and in 5 months we've grown to having over 675 women within the group. So it's a beautiful space for women to connect. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm really looking forward to sharing my insights of how CBD and yoga blend beautifully together after Alan's finished his basics of CBD talk. So stay tuned. Thanks very much, Alan, for having me here. I'm really feeling very grateful to share this knowledge with everybody.
You're very welcome. I meant to mention at the start, actually, this is our first time. This is like, we are, doing this for the first time. So hopefully everything will run quite smoothly. Right, I'm going to actually share my screen because I've put together a bit of a visual thing, because I think a lot of the CBD stuff is quite it's quite complicated, and it's easier for you guys to see it. Let's have a look. Where so that one. Yes. Just give it a second. Right, so I've given this talk to a number of different groups. I've been invited to give group talks for people like the British Legion and Rotary Club and places like that along the Costa del Sol. And it's developed as time's gone on, because different groups are more interested in different types of things, different age groups and stuff like that. Obviously, Aliya's clients are a totally different age group to the people that I give talks to at the British Legion and stuff like that. Most of my clients, people I've talked to and stuff like that over the last 3 years have been probably on the pensioner side of things and been taking painkillers for 20, 30 years. And they've just got to a point where those painkillers have become non-effective because they've been taking them for so long. You end up taking so much of it and you sort of become a bit dependent on them and stuff like that. So they get to a point where they're looking for something alternative because they're just not working anymore. So that's generally where I'm sort of the angle I'm coming from. I'm going to need to move a little box. There we go. Okay, so we'll have to include this disclaimer at the start. Neither Aliya or I are a doctor. We don't have medical training or anything like that. I do know about CBD. I've spent the last 3 years researching about it, and I spend my time passing that message on to people. But I'm not a doctor. If you've got like severe medical issues or you're on a medical regime of pills or anything like that, you should always talk to the doctor before you start supplementing with anything, not just CBD, but with anything really. So that's just really to cover our own backs. Okay, so what is CBD? I'm guessing most people that watch this video or on this Zoom will have heard of CBD one way or another, because it's been everywhere for the last couple of years. So CBD is short for a compound called cannabidiol. It's one of approximately 113 different cannabinoids produced by the cannabis plant. These include these different sort of I forget what the word is, but the combination of letters: THC, CBN, CBG, and there's loads more, but these 4 are the most well-known ones. Now, CBD is commonly known now because people are buying it over the counter. You can buy it in Boots, you can buy it in Holland & Barrett and places like that. THC is the other one that's mostly well-known. That stands for tetrahydrocannabidiol, and that is the part that makes you high. So if you've ever smoked a joint or eaten space cake or anything like that, been to Holland and partaken in that kind of thing, THC is the bit that gives you that psychoactive effect. So generally, the questions that I get asked when I go and give my talks are, will it make me high and is it legal? So CBD is pulled from a plant, essentially a species of the cannabis plant, which we're going to talk about in a minute, called hemp. That can be used for a variety of different things, including making single-use plastic, clothes, rope, all that type of thing. But that is where CBD is pulled from, and that is very, very low in THC. In the EU and the UK, depending on where you're watching it, those plants, when they're grown to be legal, have to have less than 0.2% THC in. When they're turned into a product, they have to have less than 1 milligram of THC in it. So any product you ever see should have less than 1 milligram of THC. They're all legal. It's all totally okay to buy. But there are sort of restrictions in place on those things. So obviously that covers the is it legal a bit as well. And no, CBD will not make you high. What is a cannabinoid? So a cannabinoid is a chemical compound that's found in the cannabis flower and actually the whole plant. And it causes reactions in the human body with something called the endocannabinoid system. These reactions have been reported to help several medical conditions, including nausea, relief, inflammation, and pain. So I have to keep moving the box. I'm not sure where the best place to put the box is with the little video people. So hemp and marijuana. Hemp and marijuana are both species of the cannabis family of plants. It's very similar to citrus, lemons, oranges, grapefruits. They all come from the same family. Hemp is becoming widely grown again now because it has such a vast variety of uses. Now, for me personally, one of the biggest possibilities is that you can actually make off-grid power batteries out of hemp for thousands of percentage less than it costs to make lithium batteries, with hugely less damage to the environment of mining lithium and stuff like that. Hemp batteries could be something that, well, for people like me that live off grid, could be hugely beneficial. But in places like Africa and places where there is widely people that don't have access to mains electricity, we could provide them with very cheap power by producing stuff from the hemp plant, which for me, that kind of thing, and replacing the sort of petrochemicals in single-use plastics, those type of things are huge benefits, and we should be farming and taking advantage of those things so much more. The one on the right there, that is marijuana flowers. They are essentially what is grown when you see the pictures on the news when a marijuana farm's been sort of busted and stuff like that. They're very, very high in THC, generally over 10% in THC. And when you're buying your weed off the street corner or whatever, that's essentially what you're buying. That isn't generally used for clothes or anything like that, although the stalks and stuff could still be used. Generally, it's not financially viable to grow that strain of marijuana cannabis for those type of products. The only other thing that gets grown for essentially is for medicinal cannabis, because THC has medicinal benefits as well as CBD does. So that is generally just a quick overview as to what they do. So the endocannabinoid system is essentially why CBD and THC can help us medically and stuff like that. In the 1970s, let me just get to my list. In the 1970s, the Israeli government funded like scientists to actually do some research into cannabis and the endocannabinoid system and that kind of thing. And what they found is that we've got a series of receptors throughout our body that produce cannabinoids and produce compounds like anandamide within our body that act very similarly to when we take cannabinoids into our body. So these two receptors, CB1 and CB2, are receptors that work with, let's say, for example, when you take CBD, they work with it, they sort of lock into those receptors and they open up possibilities for your body to work properly, okay? CB1 receptors are located in all these different places. So in the brain, the lungs, the vascular system, the muscles, that should say, this isn't my picture, gastrointestinal tract, female reproductive organs, the immune system, liver, bone marrow, and pancreas. The CB2 receptors are found in your spleen, your bones, your skin, your immune system, your liver, your bone marrow, and your pancreas. Now, what we've seen over the last couple of years is huge claims made in the press or huge claims made by people that say, oh my God, CBD oil, or oh my God, cannabis oil has cured me of everything. We've seen an awful lot of that over the last couple of years. Now, from my perspective, over what I've seen from the last 3 years, what has happened is this endocannabinoid system that we have in our bodies has not been being fed for probably the last 3 or 4 generations, ever since prohibition came in from the States and drug enforcement and that type of thing. In the old days, hemp was legally required to be grown on all farms in the US and the UK. Animals were fed on it, so beef was fed on it, pork was fed on it, and obviously it was part of the food chain. So we were getting cannabinoids from your meat, from your sort of daily, your daily food intake, but also it was being used as an oil, like salad dressing and stuff like that. So it was in the food chain. Now, all of a sudden, I think it was the 1920s, something like that. It was just after the prohibition of alcohol ended. The DEA in the US was set up and they started demonizing cannabis and hemp and all that kind of thing. So we've actually stopped taking it into our body, and our bodies are designed to use cannabinoids to work, to function, to create homeostasis and create balance within your body. So without those things, people have suffered many different kinds of illnesses, immune system issues, pain, inflammation, and all those sort of things. So all of a sudden, now we're adding it back into your system after generations of not having it. People are seeing incredible results because it's just waking your system up. Your system is sort of going, oh my God, I've needed this. What we see quite a lot is that people that take CBD for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, all of a sudden they start feeling much better in overall health. They can't really put their finger on one thing. So it's not like, oh, my bad knee is better. They just feel generally better in health and well-being after 3 or 4 months. And then if they take the CBD away, they start noticing little things start popping up again, whether that be knee pain, whether that be anxiety, whether that be not sleeping so well or something like that. So it's more like it just makes you work properly, just makes your whole body work properly. So obviously, when we are talking to people about CBD or, like trying to advise someone on what to take with CBD, we have to be very, very careful. We can't make huge claims. We can't say, oh, by the way, all your pain's going to go, because it's not that kind of thing. It sort of helps you deal with the pain better, or helps you deal with your anxiety better. Sometimes what people will say is they can still feel their pain. It happened with me for a while. I had a bad knee for a while, and when I took my CBD, I could still feel it there, but it was like a numb pain. I don't know if anyone else on here has taken CBD. It was still there, but it was like bearable, and I could manage it. I personally take CBD for my sleep because it actually helps me sleep better. So this is a list of things that the endocannabinoid system can actually help with, or actually has an effect in. So memory, depression, appetite, energy, homeostasis. So that's the balance in the body we were talking about earlier. Your metabolism, which of course is what keeps your energy up and stuff like that. That's always sort of something that people don't know why they lose and that kind of thing. Your stress response, anxiety, immune system, female reproductive system, nervous system, pain relief, thermoregulation, which is why lots of people that are going through the menopause end up taking CBD, sleep and physical exercise. Okay, so why do people use CBD? Now, for me, what I've experienced over the last 3 years is the two biggest reasons people look to go towards CBD is because they're suffering with anxiety or they're suffering with pain. They are just the two biggest things out there. You might find that someone takes it or comes to you because of sleep or something like that, but essentially anxiety and pain are the two biggest reasons people turn to CBD. Now, in 2017, the World Health Organization actually released a report that stated that CBD could have a therapeutic benefit on a whole list of diseases. Now, that's what I'm going to go through just very quickly, some of these diseases and some of these ailments, just to cover the basics. Obviously, if anyone wants to go through anything more in depth, please do contact me with the details at the end, because I can't just cover everything so in depth because it'll take forever. But as I've said there, additionally, people using CBD seems to experience better sleep. Now, for me, when I say that to someone, I'd sort of call that a side effect, because I think the better sleep comes from either not being anxious, or your pain's better because your body's managing it better, or your body is physically working better or in balance so you don't sleep very well. I remember before I used to take CBD, I would sleep very sporadically. I'd lie awake at night, not knowing why I couldn't sleep, didn't feel particularly anxious. Maybe I was thinking about stuff. But now that I take CBD, there's never a time when I'm laying awake thinking I can't get to sleep. So I'm not really, while I can't put my finger on it, and it's not like I take CBD and, oh God, I'm tired straight away. It's not like that. It's just that I know that my sleep experience now is different to before I used to take CBD. So that is kind of a weird situation. Some people do use THC to actually put them to sleep. So THC can actually help put you to sleep, and then CBD helps you have better sleep while you're sleeping. So it's quite a complicated issue, and it works sort of in balance with other cannabinoids sometimes. So this is the list on the World Health Organization report. If you'd like to look that up, you can Google World Health Organization report into CBD. Comes up as a PDF. It's about 54 pages long, but it's a really interesting read, and it's got a table of all these things and how it can help. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, MS, Huntington's disease, hypoxia, ischemia, injury, pain, psychosis, anxiety, depression, cancer, nausea, inflammatory disease, rheumatoid arthritis, infection, IBS diseases, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes. So I'm going to go through a few of these quickly now. Okay, so pain and inflammation, probably the biggest reason people turn to CBD, just totally. I had a friend of mine message me. I've been selling CBD for 3 years. She's known that I've been selling it for 3 years. Just yesterday, she messaged me asking for details on it because she's got problems with her knees that she's had for 3 years, but she hasn't wanted to ask about it. It's just something that people eventually turn to when they've sort of lost all hope, if you like. So what happens is CBD helps inflammation by attaching to the CB2 receptor and helping to inhibit pain. CBD is a great natural anti-inflammatory. It makes it an alternative option to over-the-counter medicines. Now, one of my very first clients that I ever had with CBD was a 77-year-old lady. She was suffering from, well, she had a car crash 30 years ago. It had given her arthritis and stuff like that. And she was on tramadol and morphine, I believe, morphine patches that you wear. And she started taking the CBD oil, Within a period of months, not immediately, but within a period of months, she was able to ditch most of her meds. I think she ended up taking 1 cocodamol a day, but it was vastly less than she was taking before. And the CBD, she went from using a walker to just using a stick. And she went from being able to, well, hardly get out of a chair because her knees just wouldn't let her get out of a chair, to being able to get out of a chair on her own unaided. Now, for a 77-year-old lady, that's life-changing. For us, maybe at 42, I'm 42, that you can't sort of envisage how life-changing that is for that person at 77 years old. Eventually, that lady actually ended up getting a new husband and boyfriend and all that sort of thing. I was like, wow, maybe that's the CBD too, but I can't make those claims that it's definitely the CBD, I'm afraid. But that, for me, that's a really good story that just goes to show like how life-changing this can be for different people in different levels of their life. So obviously one that's really key for me is autoimmune diseases, because my partner has an autoimmune disease. She actually uses the CBD, and she's been able to help balance some of her meds by using the CBD. It's also helped her with, she had big gallbladder problems with her autoimmune disease, and it's balanced out her gallbladder problems. She has something called sarcoidosis, which causes granulomas in your different organs in your body. So they're not like, it's not like cancer, it's not like tumors, it's just little things, they come and go. And she was getting them in her gallbladder, which couldn't be seen on the scans when they did it. So there wasn't gallstones, but there was something in there causing her the same symptoms. Since she's been taking the CBD, the gallbladder attacks haven't been happening. So that's like something personally that's happened really well for us. CBD helps to balance the immune system. When there is an imbalance in the body, the immune system attacks the body's defenses. That is what happens when you have an autoimmune disease. CBD can help calm that inflammatory response. CBD also promotes homeostasis, which is balance of overall health and well-being. Now, in the UK, there's a huge movement of people with MS growing their own hemp and growing their own marijuana to treat themselves with CBD and THC. Now, it is actually a sort of official movement. They are going to the police basically in their town and saying, I'm growing this stuff for myself. I really need it because I can't function without it. What are you going to do about it, sort of thing. I think there's about 10,000 people, like in a whole community of people in the UK doing this. And I think that movement will probably multiply how fast it will become legal in the UK, because there's just so many benefits that people find of using these kind of products. That for me is just, I've seen pictures of people that can't walk, and like multiple sclerosis is literally sort of ruining their life, and then they've been using cannabis and they've been using CBD, and they've gone on to be able to do physical training or run 10K and stuff like that. And for me, that's just something amazing. Things like psoriasis and eczema, they are physical symptoms on your skin that happen because your immune system is out of balance, really. It's basically your immune system attacking your skin. So often you'll see if someone starts taking CBD, internally, they might have been using creams and stuff on psoriasis and eczema for years to no great effect, although it helps calm the itching and stuff like that. But it doesn't sort of get rid of the problem. But once they start taking CBD, often it fights it from the inside. And once balance is restored within the body, the psoriasis and eczema start to get better and they don't come back. So that, again, is kind of an amazing thing. There's lots of people with fibromyalgia that use CBD. Mixed results, really, because fibromyalgia is really difficult first to diagnose because lots of people are in pain lots of the time, but it's really sort of extreme pain and really chronic. So fibromyalgia is quite difficult, but again, some people use it and it helps them to take less painkillers and stuff like that. So again, it's something that helps them manage day to day, really. Type 2 diabetes, I'm not going to spend too long on this, because if you have got diabetes, you should always check with a doctor because you're often on a balance of meds to keep your blood sugar and stuff like that. But Research does show that people with diabetes who've been using CBD tend to have a 16 to 17% lower blood sugar level than those who haven't. So that's obviously just quite a good little side note. Now, neurodegenerative diseases is something that I have in my family. My nan has Alzheimer's. Sadly, she's at a point now where she's really anti-taking her own medication. So actually getting her onto CBD now is not something we've been able to do. But given research and given what has been shown to happen with people taking CBD, they do believe that CBD has a positive antioxidant effect on the brain and can slow down the effects of Alzheimer's. So if you've got Alzheimer's or dementia in the family, having CBD, you know, for the previous years when you might get to that stage of having dementia or Alzheimer's can help stave off the effects and the disease itself. In 2003, the US government actually patented CBD as a treatment for these diseases. So they actually went out and said basically no other company in the US can use CBD to treat these diseases. We obviously know it works, but we have got the right and we have got the patent on using it. And no, they haven't even made a medication out of it. So that's really something that grinds your gears a little bit, because it's just government sort of getting involved and again trying to prohibit people's access to these meds. Epilepsy and seizures is one of the things that is huge in the press and stuff like that, because kids in the UK have been using CBD to calm down seizures, and there's a lot of autistic kids that have a lot of epileptic fits and a lot of seizures, and mums have been battling for the last few years. Ever since I got into CBD, mums have been battling to try and get the right to have access to these medications from cannabis, medications from CBD, that help their kids basically have less seizures or no seizures and less severe seizures. There's mums that go to the US, there's mums that go to Canada, there's mums that go to Holland, and they often get stopped at customs with bringing drugs back that are made specifically for their kids because they've got CBD in and because the UK haven't been allowing it. Now, last year, the UK did actually legalise medicinal cannabis, but getting a prescription has been really, really tricky until now. Although there is talk now that it's going to be easier for the next few months, for the next few years. But at this stage, there is a med in the US called Epidiolex, which I think might be available in the UK now on the NHS, but it's very difficult to get a prescription. It's only got CBD oil in it, and it literally costs $32,000 per customer per year, $32,000. I mean, that is just absurd. But that is where we are, really. Autism spectrum disorders. CBD has a positive effect in balancing neurotransmitters. So often we're talking about young adults, teenagers in this type of situation. There's significant gut inflammation in a lot of people that suffer with autism. CBD can help reduce this, and therefore it helps reduce discomfort. Especially if you have non-verbally autistic people that can't express what they're feeling and why they're having tantrums and stuff like that. It also helps to reduce neurological overfiring and balance stress. So often someone with autism, you'll see take CBD and they sort of calm down and they're able to manage their sort of symptoms and manage their day-to-day a bit better, or at least their carers are able to manage them a little bit easier. I have seen people that have gone from being non-verbal autistic as kids to sort of, it's in the States, to being able to live a normal life over a number of years of taking CBD medicine or cannabis medicine. But that, again, that's down to individuals and people to check up on, really. Anxiety. Now, I will actually say to maybe Aliya can talk a bit about anxiety when she gets onto hers, because I believe that's what she uses CBD for quite a lot. So that, from a personal perspective, would be better for Aliya to talk about. But what CBD does, it inhibits the chemicals that can cause anxiety, and it also increases the production in the brain of serotonin. Anxiety is literally the biggest reason around the world people choose to use CBD in their sort of daily lives. And whether that's something that helps me sleep with my sleep issues, maybe I was like laying awake at night thinking about stuff, you know, when you're stressed about money or stuff like that. these days, maybe when I take CBD, I'm less anxious. I can't guarantee that because I would never have put myself down as someone that suffers with anxiety, but that could be a reason why for me, it helps me sleep better. Obviously, there's sleep problems. Due to its relaxing properties, CBD can help with sleep problems. And I have had clients that have been helped with things like restless leg syndrome. Again, I've had people sort of say to me, maybe they're taking CBD oil for rheumatoid arthritis in their joints, and they've stopped having restless leg syndrome when they've been taking it. So again, they've described it almost like a side effect, but it has helped in that aspect. Cancer is quite a big one. Cancer, we have to be very, very careful talking about cancer because lots of people make claims that CBD can kill cancer when we're not really making those sort of claims at all. But there are some hormone-driven cancer cells that can be killed by CBD. I think it's right to include that and say that that is the case. But generally, more people with cancer are using CBD to help with pain from chemo and sickness from chemo and stuff like that, and managing the side effects of the treatment of the cancer rather than actually dealing with the cancer itself. So although there are some studies being done at the moment to see what cells CBD can kill and how that can be incorporated in treatment in the future, you know, you just have to be a bit careful. When you see like a Daily Mail story that says CBD cured my cancer, you just have to take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt and just be a bit careful what you're reading, really. Promoting cardiovascular health. So this is the last one on my list. CBD reduces inflammatory damage in arteries. CBD can help protect vascular walls and stop cholesterol sticking to the walls of the arteries. Also, one of the side effects of taking CBD is that it can actually lower blood pressure. So one of the things we have to be careful with is if people are already taking medication to lower blood pressure, if they take CBD as well, sometimes it can make them feel a bit woozy, a bit dizzy because their blood pressure has gone too low. So actually a natural side effect of taking CBD is that your blood pressure becomes lower and, you know, part of less being stressed and all that sort of thing. So it's actually a good thing, but we just have to be aware if people are already on medication for that, not to allow their blood pressure to get too low. Okay, that is me on my basics. I'm going to ask Aliya to unmute and then she can tell us her side of things. Go.
Okay, thanks, Alan. So I'm just wondering if it's possible to put my stop sharing your perfect, thank you. Okay. So thank you so much, Alan, for explaining all of those health benefits. I think there's a few there that I want to go into and expand because they are very much in line with why I mix CBD and yoga together. So just a little bit of background about my particular experience with CBD. First instance was in the UK when I wanted to stop smoking and improve my appetite. So I bought a little spray in Holland and Barrett's, which was under the tongue spray, and it did help improve my appetite and also for me to stop smoking cigarettes. So that did the job. And then I stopped using it and then I started smoking again. So that was not ideal, but a wonderful way to explain and demonstrate that CBD is a great buffer for putting space between you and whatever it is that you want that may not be good for you. So after the first interaction with CBD in the UK, I moved to Spain. I moved to Madrid. And in Madrid, I honestly thought I'd made a huge mistake moving to Spain. It was so noisy and it was so messy and it was so stressful. And I'd been living in a beautiful little one-bedroom flat in almost the middle of nowhere to going to right in the centre of the city. And for my character, it was a lot of adjustment. So I suffered from sleep deprivation because of the noise. I suffered from anxiety, just to the change of living in a different country, the change of living in a different language, and it was just horrendous, especially when it got to my PMS week. I would be feeling extreme rage. I'd be having bouts of depression. I'd be having huge anxiety issues, not being able to sleep. It was just a really terrible time. And then, by divine fortune, I went to a business meeting, a business lunch, and met Alan. And Alan kindly explained all the things that he mentioned now in the presentation. And I thought, yes, of course, why don't I just use this again? So I bought a 2.5% dropper, little bottle, and it was wonderful. I slept better. I was able to control my moods up and down much better. I made better decisions because I felt calmer. And then quite swiftly afterwards, speaking of life-changing course of events, I moved to Granada. And now here, what I've noticed is that I'm not using it for stress management. I'm not using it to help me sleep. I'm not using it to combat my PMS week. I'm using it as a booster for taking my enjoyment of life to the next level. And I think it's a wonderful way to carry yourself into better and better levels of being. So it will help you through the really tough times. But then once you reach that level of feeling in balance, feeling in control, you don't have to stop taking it. You just keep taking it, and then your body and your life improves. So how does it improve your life once it's combated everything else? Is homeostasis. We come back to homeostasis. The body's systems always want to come back to an equilibrium. So if you drink coffee and then you're racing forward and you feel that anxiety, you can maybe cut back on the coffee, but then also help yourself not have that craving for coffee by having a drop of oil and coming back to homeostasis and living that happy medium life. It also helps with nervousness. I'm going to put my hand up and say I was extremely nervous before this talk, and I thought, well, I've got just the cure. I'll take a couple of drops of my my CBD oil, and I don't leave the house without it. I have a little pouch here, and this is my bottle that I carry around with me all the time. And then it also helps curb cravings. Now, I'm going to put my hand up and admit, once a smoker, always a smoker, but I still don't want to smoke. And this helps me because there are still moments, months and months, years and years after not smoking, where I feel I want to. And then I take a drop of oil and it helps curb that craving. So I find that it still helps me with that even now. So those are great things that it can help you with on a day-to-day basis, and my personal experience of CBD helping me with my personal health and well-being. Moving through to how CBD and yoga blend together, I'm going to pick up on 5 different points which Alan has touched on, and maybe a couple that he hasn't. So the point number 1 of mixing CBD and yoga and how it can benefit you and your yoga clients, or if you've just started practicing yoga, how I would really advise you and encourage you to blend the 2 together, is that it does reduce anxiety and depression. And this has been proven in many studies. Why is that relevant to yoga? It's because when we get onto our mat and we try to perform a sun salutation, there might be an expectation of yourself that you may not be able to reach within the first hour of practicing yoga. You may feel depressed that your health or well-being isn't in the state that you want it to be. And by taking 1 or 2 drops of CBD oil before you get on your mat, it helps to calm that anxiety and that depression. You help yourself have a better realistic expectation, and you also let go of the judgment of yourself, which in effect just makes your practice much more easier and a much better flow. So much of yoga is inside the mind, and if you quiet the mind, perhaps with meditation, or perhaps because there's so many things going on, with a couple of drops of oil, you can quiet the mind, you'll be able to flow into your yoga practice much more easily. And I've noticed this not just with myself, but with my yogis that I teach on a weekly basis. They'll have 1 or 2 drops before the class. They enjoy it. They feel calmer. They're able to breathe easier, which obviously helps with the sport. And their mood lifts, which is what we want at the end of the day. The second point is pain relief. Now, yoga is a sport as well as a way of life, and there are going to be certain positions that are going to be slightly uncomfortable. So if you feel like you're in pain, of course, we don't want to be moving through that pain, breaking something, tearing something. But I find that with CBD, as Alan mentioned with his knee pain, you are aware of the pain, but it's manageable, which is much safer than taking painkillers, which completely switch off the pain receptors and invite a really kind of dangerous position to be in, because pain is a wonderful thing. It is a warning that something is happening in your body that needs to be addressed. So you want to be able to feel it, but you also want to be able to manage it. And there are plenty of doctors that have said that CBD is a safe and wonderful pain management because it's not addictive, it's not going to damage your liver, it's going to protect, and it's also going to allow you to feel that pain without it being unbearable. So when you're practicing any sports, whether it's running or swimming or weight training or anything that you're putting stress into the body because you're exercising, it's important to feel the pain, but it's important to make sure it's manageable. And that's what I find with CBD. It offers you that brilliant balance of feeling your body, but it being manageable. Also, it helps with recovery. So after a good session of sports, any sports, yoga, swimming, weight training, whatever, you want your recovery to be smooth and efficient. And you can take a couple of CBD drops after a particularly strong workout and recover much faster. So that's another really good point about blending yoga and CBD together. Touching on another point that Alan made about cardiovascular health, if we're talking about blood pressure and heart health. If anyone's practiced yoga, you can appreciate that there's a lot of ups and downs. You're doing a sun salutation, one moment your head is above the heart, another moment your head is below the heart. And a lot of people with high blood pressure are advised to seek medical advice before practicing, because the up and downs can make the blood pressure go up and down. So taking 1 or 2 drops of CBD oil to lower your blood pressure means that you will be able to perform the sport in a much easier fashion, because your blood pressure will be lower and you'll be able to pass through those postures that perhaps you could feel your pulse in your neck, or perhaps you could hear your pulse in your ears and in your temples. You won't feel that anymore. So that helps hopefully bring a bit more sense of peace into your flow. So helping with heart health and helping with blood pressure always is a great thing. We want our blood pressure to be lower in order to have less pressure on arteries and enjoy a better way of using these bodies that we live in. The fourth benefit that I want to speak about is the mind-body connection. So this is a sense of mindfulness, yes. And I'm going to bring it back to the World Health Organization report, because it states in there that CBD has neuroprotective properties. Now, neuroprotective properties is a way of saying that all the nerves within your brain, within your spinal column, within your whole nervous system, CBD protects those neurotransmitters. It helps to protect them. And if you imagine that your mind is it's almost like a thing that's created from your thoughts, but your thoughts are being transmitted through your nervous system. if you can connect your nervous system and your body in a way that is smooth and flowing. Say, for example, you want to do a sun salutation and you want your left foot to come forward, but your brain is saying one thing and your body is saying something else. This is where we want to get really mindful. This is where we want to bring in that neuroprotective quality that CBD gives, and it helps for your brain and your body to connect, and your left leg is more likely to come to the position that you want it to be in, because you've allowed a bridge to happen. You've allowed a bridge to be created by taking that CBD and allowing these nerve cells to speak to each other in a much more fluid way. So things that are mentioned in the World Health Organization report are Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's, hypoxia, also psychosis, which we know is something to do with the brain. And then there was a study which showed that a single dose, a 600 milligram single dose of CBD helped people suffering from psychosis reset certain parts of their brain in different parts of the way that they were using those parts. So I've got the details here. And this is just something that I want to give you an idea of that. In a medical study for psychosis, I'm not saying that my yogis are that way, but I just want to show you just how much of an impact CBD can make for patients suffering from psychosis. So you can just begin to imagine what it does to a normal human brain that is just functioning slightly outside of normal parameters. And I mean stressed out, anxious, depressed, whatever. So in the control group, nobody was given anything, but they were performing a particular task. In the group that had a psychosis, when they were performing that task, they had a set amount of abnormal activity happening within 3 parts of the brain. And in the group that was given that 600 milligram dose of CBD, they could measure less abnormalities within the certain parts of the brain. The CBD was resetting pathways within the brain in order for them to act and behave and register more normal activities. So why is this relevant to CBD? Imagine if that's what's happening within the brain of somebody with a psychosis, how much effect that's going to have on your brain that's already functioning beautifully. You're already practicing yoga, you're enjoying your health and well-being, and that CBD is going to take you from a normal level of function to an exceeded boosted level of functioning, because you are connecting much more healthily and happily within the mind and the body and eventually the spirit. So that is something that I want to mention, the mind-body connection and how CBD can benefit you. And then the 5th one, which I think it's a little bit more anecdotal, but it's something that Alan did mention, and I want people to really appreciate it, because I believe it deserves a lot of attention. And I want to talk about the delicate neurotransmitter called anandamide. So anandamide is a neurotransmitter which is like a little signaling molecule that your brain creates when you're having fun and you're feeling well. Why is this relevant for CBD? Well, it's been shown that anandamide, and a side point is ananda is a Sanskrit word that means joy or bliss. So the scientists took this Sanskrit word ananda, and yoga is coming from these ancient parts of the world where they were speaking in Sanskrit. And they've taken this joy, put ide on the end of it, and made this neurotransmitter's name. Now, when this neurotransmitter is released, it doesn't last very long inside the body. Otherwise, we'd all be in eternal bliss, which would be wonderful. But then we wouldn't progress, we wouldn't improve, we wouldn't eat, we wouldn't sleep, because we just felt wonderful all the time. So you need to have those down times in order to have the up times as well. Now, CBD is super important in this particular neurotransmitter's life, because CBD has been shown and has been proven to suppress the enzyme that breaks down Ananda Nile. So if you want to have a great practice that you've really put a lot of time and effort into, and then your body and your brain create this Ananda Nile, this bliss molecule, because you've taken the CBD at the same time, what that means is that beautiful chemical, that beautiful substance is going to stay inside your body for much longer, as well as everything else that this wonderful CBD does. So I want to really bring that to your attention. The CBD will help you enjoy your yoga practice when you come off the mat. So that joy that you've created can last you throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, because you are protecting yourself. You are allowing yourself to really have the best possible practice before, during, and after. And this is what I like sharing with my yogis and everybody that comes to me for Thai massage or for yoga classes. I try and explain these little concepts, which are much easier to understand, and people can make their own choices. You've spent an hour cultivating your yoga practice. Do you want it to finish as soon as you've come off the mat, or do you want it to continue? The choice really is up to you. So I haven't very, very much more to say, apart from thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for such a great response to people saying that they wanted to hear about yoga blended with CBD. I think that CBD and the cannabis plant are ancient properties which have been vilified and been withdrawn from our society, and unfortunately that has been the history of our scenario with this. But the fortunate thing is that it is now coming back, and it is being paid attention to with scientific studies, with medical studies, and there is scientific proof to say that this is good for your body. Yoga is good for your body, we know that, but there are ways to blend the two together to have this synergy, this entourage effect, so that you can really have lots of tools in your pockets in order to look after your health and well-being. One of the things that I share is that your body is the home for your spirit. So let's make it a really nice place to live.
Wow. I love that. I tell you what I love, Aliya, is to take you to the next level. That is awesome.
But it really does. So, I mean, a lot of people, like you mentioned, a lot of people are using it for pain and anxiety. But when that goes, there's this whole new life that opens up that they just don't realize that they had access to before. So when you were talking about your lady, thanks very much, Margot. When you were talking about your lady that couldn't get up out of a chair unassisted, and then suddenly she got a new husband, she got a new life, she got this new. And I think that's a really nice thing to communicate to people. It's like, this isn't just for now, this is for the rest of your life, and the rest of your life can be really beautiful.
Yeah, no, I think, and that's something that you don't see. Like, if you were to go away and research CBD, you would see the pain stuff, you would see the inflammation stuff, you'd see the anxiety stuff, but you wouldn't see that next level sort of stuff, really. And obviously, I do think that once you're getting the benefits, and whether that be pain, whether that be anxiety, whether that be sleeping better or whatever from homeostasis, coupled with whatever you're doing to, obviously not everyone does yoga, but going to the gym, whatever you do to maintain your peak. But there's never talk of, using CBD to go to that next level. That's not very talked about. So I think that's really, really good and really, really interesting.
Thank you.
Yes, you are welcome. I'm going to cover just a couple of things just about sport in general, because we had loads of response from people talking about sport, or people that are interested in sport as opposed to yoga. And because we are recording this and I want to be able to put it out there that, so we can use it, we can direct people to this video, I just want to cover sport very, very quickly in a couple of little different ways. And then I'll put up our contact details at the end. And please, if anyone has got any, questions for either of us, please do get in touch with us with the information at the end. I'm sure Aliya would love to talk yoga with as many people as possible, because that is what she does. And actually, a lot of that, what she was talking about then, was new to me. That new level stuff was awesome. So I'm sure people will want to talk to you about that, Aliya. So I'm going to go back to my little presentation, just because it makes my life a little bit easier. And I'm going to go on to sport. So Aliya actually covered this. As you can tell, this is, again, like I said, this is new, so we sort of overlapped a little bit in a couple of places. But one of the main reasons people use CBD in sport is because of the recovery. Recovery is huge, especially in professional sport, when there is another match, another game, another sort of training that you've always got to be ready for. I don't think there's professional yoga apart from teaching, so I don't think that's quite the same. But what we're talking about, really, we're talking about sports like football, we're talking about sports like rugby, and even sort of strength training and stuff like that. People take lots and lots of painkillers to get through those events. I mean, even me as an amateur footballer, before I moved to Spain, I used to play football 5 or 6 times a week. I'd probably use a packet of ibuprofen and a packet of paracetamol a week, just because I had really bad ankles, and I just didn't want to stop. And now if you multiply that by the professional levels that are getting paid to do it, whereas they're under pressure to get out there and perform day in, day out, or week in, week out, if we can replace some of those pills with CBD, if we can use CBD as an alternative for some of those things, I think generally it will be better in the long run for a lot of those people. When you see people retire from sport, especially things like boxing, things like MMA, things that are strength related and sort of combat sports, often once the people have retired, they don't live to 70, 80 years old. And there's got to be reasons for that, apart from getting punched in the head all the time. But I think probably using paracetamol, using ibuprofen, and using heavy duty painkillers all the time probably sort of is part of why they sort of bodies give up at some point. Going back to my dad and being addicted to anxiety meds and stuff like that, it's not good for your liver, it's not good for your kidneys and all that sort of thing. And obviously if they're not working, and I know from personal experience, when your liver's not working, it literally poisons your body. And like my dad used to have to take a notepad around with him, write down stuff, because he couldn't even remember what he'd driven down the road for. I mean, he shouldn't have been driving, but you couldn't tell him. But that is just from a personal experience how CBD could be better. This is obviously just taken, I've put it on there, reference in the UK NHS. Right, okay, so I just had to recap there because I wasn't sure what I'd written. That's because the UK's National Health Service explains that working out causes microscopic damage to muscle fibres. I think we have something called fast twitch fibres, which have to get damaged and then repaired to sort of get stronger and stuff like that. Muscles become inflamed, which triggers the body to respond and repair, causing muscle soreness and stiffness, which is when you go to the gym one day, the next day you can't get out of bed. Obviously, that is your muscles becoming stronger and that sort of thing. According to a 2018 review of 132 original studies published in Frontiers in Neurology, called CBD can indeed reduce inflammation in the body and help improve pain and mobility in patients with MS. So we were talking about MS earlier. MS is a huge, huge area where CBD can be beneficial. It's anti-inflammatory, antioxidative, anti-emetic, I'm not sure what that is, antipsychotic and neuroprotective. That's everything Aliya's just been talking about. And you can use it topically. So as it says there at the bottom, you can actually use it to rub into the muscles and stuff like that. If you don't want to take it, the thing is with CBD oil is it's a multi-use product. So you can buy a CBD cream that you can rub into your knee. You can buy a CBD balm that's good for your skin. But if you use a CBD oil, you can take it sublingually by dropping it under your tongue. You can take it on your sore knee, you can rub it in. There's also a gland just beneath your belly button You can take it by putting it in your belly button, and it will get sort of direct into your sort of stomach area and go straight in. So if you suffer from digestive issues, things like IBS, it might be that you find taking it under your tongue, it works a little bit but doesn't work great, but you might try putting it in your belly button and you find it works much better. There's certain things you have to sort of, play around with, experiment a little bit, especially with this. Lots of ladies with endometriosis and, as Aliya was saying, PMS sort of pain and stuff like that. CBD is huge for those types of things. It's really, really good. And a lady might find that it's better to put it in her belly button and let it absorb that way rather than go under the tongue, because obviously it's closer to where everything's going on. And I mean, just talking in terms of proximity, that's maybe easier. But again, one person might not find that they're putting it in their belly button works as well as taking it in their mouth, or you could massage it into your stomach if you've got IBS or something like that. So there's huge different ways, and you do have to play with it a little bit for yourself. So CBD in rugby, again, just briefly covering this. Rugby is physically and mentally tough. Preparation is key, and recovery, again, recovery is essential. CBD is a great natural solution to help regulate pain, control inflammation, reduce joint and muscle pain, and to help you relax after performing, to again aid recovery. Using CBD can get you back to peak performance quickly, reduce the reliance on traditional medications, and CBD is not listed by WADA on the banned substances list at all these days. So everyone in any level, even if you're professional, you can use CBD. You do have to be careful to make sure you use an isolated CBD that hasn't got any traces of THC, but as long as you're just using CBD, there's no problems there. Boxing's the same in terms of restrictions and stuff like that, but as well as the information benefits of using CBD, boxing is highly stressful. Performance anxiety can be common because obviously, you train for 6 months for one match, one fight. So using CBD can help with that competition nerves. It's very similar to what Aliya was talking about earlier in terms of class performance anxiety. That can happen with a boxer. That can happen with a weightlifter or a bodybuilder or anything. It's a way to combat those nerves and help you stay calm to perform at your peak. So again, the potential for CBD coupled with training and diet could be huge for boxers. Now, I don't know. I've never sort of trained with boxers or anything like that, but I would assume there is a huge reliance on painkillers and anti-inflammatories to get through training week in, week out. If you're sparring every day and you're out running and you can't afford to miss a week's training, people are going to be taking painkillers. They're going to be, I know for a fact, footballers have injections to get through a game, injections of anti-inflammatories and stuff like that. We need to be moving away from that type of thing, and hopefully once CBD is more out there and types of talks like this to educate people as much as possible can help get the ideas out there. So MMA is the last one I want to talk about. That's mixed martial arts. Now, MMA was one of the first sports that actually openly used CBD. There was press conferences with top MMA athletes smoking or vaping CBD right after fights and stuff like that, because they knew that it could be anti-inflammatory and help reduce their recovery time and that sort of thing. So that's one of the sort of big areas where it sort of spread and it came from there. MMA has become really popular recently. There's a guy called Joe Rogan who does a podcast. He's probably the most well-known podcaster in the world. He's a huge advocate of CBD. He's a huge advocate of MMA. That's one of the reasons why CBD started getting out there. As I've put there, most athletes can in fact benefit from CBD, but also combat sport participants have very little time to recover, and recovery is really key. You'll notice that the word recovery in whatever me and Aliya have talked about, recovery is really, really part of the benefit of CBD. So we are looking for partners really, both in yoga teachers who would be interested in sort of spreading this seminar around to new countries and stuff like that. We are looking for yoga studios in Southern Spain and Madrid to host seminars like this in person. We think that would be really good. Me and Aliya will come to your retreat or your sort of studio, I guess it would be, and maybe do this for your class and stuff like that. I think that would be really cool. I think what Aliya said was amazing, and I think it would be great for like classes to have that experience. Athletes and trainers, like so physical trainers, I think this could be rolled out to, you know, how we could incorporate CBD in a fitness class, how we could incorporate CBD for rugby, football, etc., stuff like that. And also, I'm sure Aliya would be keen to talk to any sports therapists or massage therapists that would be interested in maybe utilizing CBD for the benefits of recovery from injury in those situations. It's not widespread, it's not hugely being used, but I think, and I'll get Aliya to unmute in a minute, but I remember her talking about the first CBD massage someone did on her, and I think she had amazing feelings from it, and also she did it for the first time. So I'll get her just to pop on again in a minute and just mention that just before we close. So this is me. If you need to contact me, screenshot that. We will be putting this on YouTube. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, all those sort of places. There's a little chat out there. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Thank you. Okay, so WhatsApp's there, email, and my Facebook profile page. They're the best ways to get in touch with me. I'm always on Facebook. For my sins, I shouldn't be, but I always am. And this is Aliya's details. There's a WhatsApp, there's a yoga email, and her Facebook page. So that's her Facebook business page there. Amazing, Aliya. I didn't put your full list of everything you do there, Aliya, on your because I couldn't fit it all in. So I just thought that looked nice and smooth. So I'll unmute you. Or you unmute yourself. If you could just mention the massage stuff, that would be great. If you would be interested in, or if anyone would be interested in contacting you about that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much. In fact, I'm going to be ordering another CBD massage candle on Tuesday, because in all the massages that I've done, I'm now like scraping out the very bottom of it. So this has lasted a very long time. I've been using this. As soon as it arrived, I took it to a Thai massage person to help me with my lower back, and it was fantastic. I just thought, well, I'll try anything. Like you mentioned earlier, a lot of people come to their wits' end, and then they suddenly find the thing that works, and this really worked for me. So speaking about massage and CBD, now I'm qualified with Thai massage, which is traditionally very uncomfortable. So it does wonderful things for your body because it's energetic work. We work on the meridian and the sen lines, but we also are working with our feet on your body. Sometimes you're being walked on, sometimes we're manipulating a particular articulation of the joints. And if somebody has limited movement, this can be really uncomfortable. So the reason that I use CBD products is because it helps to bring the comfort level back to the point where it does become a pleasure. It is relaxing. You can achieve all the benefits of a Thai massage without having to be crying in the moment, which has happened to me in the past in the UK, where I know that I need that muscle to be unknotted, but it's just so painful. And I'm very keen on changing in order to bring new technologies to people, in order so that we don't repeat history being uncomfortable. We can make a new, more comfortable, more pleasurable future for ourselves. So I use the CBD foot cream for my clients. A lot of them are running around quite a lot and their feet hurt, so I use the CBD foot cream, and then I go in with my reflexology knowledge. If somebody has any kind of muscle issues, scoliosis, limited range of mobility, fatigue, I use the CBD massage candle, and I think half of the pleasure of the massages that I give comes from the products that I use, because we really fuse the two benefits together. So the Thai massage with the energy, and then the CBD with the healing benefits that it has. I'm very proud to say that I do have a Olympic ski client. So she was the first woman who won a medal, and she and I meet probably about once or twice a month, and I've been helping her with her back and her knee pain. She's no longer skiing so much because when she does, she has to wear a metal brace that fits onto her hips and then provides support for her knees. So she has an aluminium brace that she uses to ski, but she's considering not using it anymore because of the progress that we've made with the Thai massages that I give and the CBD product. Not only that we are using both topically on the skin as I massage, but she also takes a 10% isolate CBD oil sublingually, and she's noticed a huge improvement in her health and well-being. So I'd like to just share that with you all. So I think it's just one of the beautiful things about CBD that I'm totally in love with is it really doesn't do you any harm. So there's 3 side effects to CBD, which I'd like to just share if we have time and if you've got time to stay. The first one is diarrhea. So, why? Because it's an oil and it relaxes everything. So if you take too much, your body just says, oh, I don't need all of this, or I'm very relaxed, and it just passes through. That's the worst. That's the only thing. So don't, and that's also wonderful because that means you need very, very little. So it's not something that you have to take loads and loads of. You just take 1 or 2 drops, start small, start slow, and see how you go. Pun not intended. And the second thing is fatigue. Now, why is that a side effect? It's a benefit, but it's, again, if you've taken too much. So if you're looking for rest, relaxation, fatigue, unconscious. So it's like, again, you've just taken a touch too much. So then just come back to taking less. And then the third one is appetite. Now, it will affect your appetite. This is true. So it will affect your appetite. And what it will do is it will curb your cravings. Now, this is a fantastic benefit I see, but it has to be listed as a side effect because you might be taking it for pain, but then you'll notice your appetite changes, and this is a side effect. So I don't think that the negative connotation should be thought of in that moment. I think the positive connotation should be there. So CBD really cannot do you much harm as long as you start slow, start small, start feeling your body and how it benefits you. And what have you got to lose?
Yeah, I totally agree. Actually, the appetite sort of side effect is like, I don't think there's very many people generally that eat what they should eat. You know, we tend to eat what we're hungry, don't we? We always want to eat when we're hungry, or we control what we eat by not eating because something else is going on, whether that be anxiety or whatever. So just to use the dog, for example, that Carlos, our dog that we first used CBD with, he wouldn't eat. Now, whether that was anxious related or pain related, once he started taking the CBD and started feeling better, his appetite came back. Now, again, that's like anecdotal evidence, obviously, but it's got to be the same in people, really. So although it's a side effect, it's part of you not necessarily eating correctly, if you know what I mean.
I agree. I think the way that it affects your appetite is it either will curb your cravings or it will allow you to eat more. And people react to stress and anxiety in different ways. Some people comfort eat, where they just devour the whole cake. And some people won't eat because they're too nervous and they'll feel nauseous afterwards. So how it affects your appetite is only in a beneficial way. CBD just wants you to be happy and healthy. And wherever you are on the scale of pain, of anxiety, of diet, food choices, it just brings you back to that happy medium and lets you get on with whatever it is that you want to do after.
I think that it's an hour and a half. I think that's a perfect time to finish, and CBD just wants you to be happy. That's a great way to finish it. Thank you guys that have come on and watched. We really appreciate it for our first one. It's been really enjoyable. Obviously, get in touch with us if you want to get in touch with us. We will put it on YouTube, fire it out to a few different people, and we'll be here if we need you, or if you need us, rather. Thank you, Aliya. It's been great fun.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much, Alan, for organising this. I'm very, very grateful, and I'm very much looking forward to the next one soon. Please.
Thank you. Great. I'm going to turn it off now. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.